entertaining, but it's like,
Yeah. Hi, guys. Welcome to the Night Owls. It's good to guys see you here. And Simulated Xenial, he's already joined. We'll get you on here in a little bit, Simulated Xenial. If you guys have a question on Gumroad, you can always call in. This is Night Owls. This is like the strangest broadcast we do. I do, in that we don't really have a set agenda. We just talk about cultural things, and we just kind of, we just take it. We don't know how long we're going to go. We just do whatever, however the spirit moves us. And we've been kind of goofy beforehand. Because Sasha, you were just watching a show, right? And you were saying one of the things they make women unlikable in new movies or shows.
yeah, new shows. They're always these like, I don't know, career women, and they micromanage their kids, and I don't know. There's just all this drama, and they're not really likable. Like when I'd watch shows back in the 80s and 90s, a lot of times you'd like the characters or sympathize with them. Like these characters are kind of like.
That's I heard the expression, what they do now is just make men with tits. They don't really write for women anymore because they really hate women, so they just have to make all women into men but have a woman's body.
Well, they kind of do that, really.
Maybe that's how the whole trans thing came, because they're ashamed for women to be women. The only way a woman can be a good woman is to actually be a man. Like that transgender dude in Ukraine that was her spokesman.
Yeah.
But maybe that's where it all came from, because you see that, and there's that new game out. I forget the name of it, Starfield or something, where there's, even on Reddit, they're saying there's literally no white men in the game.
Really?
It's all people of color that are hideous looking and strong, empowered women. And the women are all the same. There's no variation there. That you go girl, sassy girl boss,
Yeah.
And it's a shame how they do that, because it takes away a lot of the dynamics. Sasha and I were talking about, what year do you think this all kind of started to go to shit with the culture? 2012? I mean, basically, media, games, movies, after a certain year, you couldn't do anymore. It's just been wrecked because of cultural Marxism, wokeism.
I don't know. It got really, really bad after Trump, but it kind of started before that even.
I mean, you always had the trope of the black scientist and all that, because beforehand they could have white characters, and of course they'd have. So let's say if they had a character about detectives that were white, obviously the smart police chief would have to be a sassy black woman or something.
It's like this on this show.
Did they do that?
It's not even a joke. The cop is like this sassy black, or she's not sassy, but it's some black lady.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's always.
Yeah, they always do that. And the judge is a black woman, and these are the things that Hollywood has been pushing for a while now, but it really got over the board now. They're just straight excluding white men from the culture. It's really genocidal if you look at what they're trying to do, eliminate whiteness. And it kind of sucks that way. So,
well, I used to go to the movies a lot, and I kept all my movie stubs, or most of them, and I've been gluing them in this book that I have. And if you look at my book, it seemed like I stopped going to the movies more around like 2011. It's kind of like when the movie tickets got like, like, and then here and there I'll go to like anniversary shows, like we saw Christine. That's almost anymore kind of what I go to, except for like Cocaine Bear. That was something different that I liked, and Megan. But
it's hard for them to get out a original story now. Typically what Hollywood does, either they do that Marvel cape shit, and when we went to the movie theater, what did we see, Christine?
Yeah.
And we saw the cutout for the new Marvel shit, and they had a white, red-haired woman as a superhero, some mystery race woman as I don't know what the hell it was, as a hero, and a black woman. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to see this shit. And they all, I'm sure, are written with the exact same sassy you go girl personality.
Right.
And it's just really dull. It's just a lack of creativity they have.
Well, even the comic book movies, I used to kind of like comic movies, but it's like it's all the same. And then they just recycle how many Batman movies do you need? Or Spider-Man, or now it's all these obscure people I've never even heard
of. Or they
of.
have to do, oh, well, here's different. I mean, yeah, we will have a white character on this, a white guy, but here's a twist. He likes it up the ass. I'm like, oh, right. Okay, wow,
or
okay.
He's a woman or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great creativity there. And also what they do, they take old shows and they do all this race swap bullshit.
Right.
and it's just
Oh
crazy.
yeah, I just saw because I get a free week of Cinemax,
Uh-huh.
and I saw that they have Velma. I guess it's from like last year or something. The cart like Scooby Doo, you know
Hmm.
Velma, the
Yeah.
one in orange. She's black now,
Oh yeah, yeah.
and the reviews are funny. Like I didn't actually read the reviews, but you could see the stars. It's like 2.5 stars out of 5
Really, yeah.
because people I think are tired of that shit.
Yeah, it is. It's
It's like come
Z-Man
up with your
talked
own thing.
Z-Man talked a little bit about that, and in his writing, it's almost hard to get through a lot of cultural stuff because you want to be plugged in. And I can overlook some, but if it gets too much, it's just
Right.
and it's interesting because if you do look at old stuff, you can see already the subversion of the usual suspects. But it's just really amped up to a crazy
It
degree now.
is.
And so, like Sasha was watching her show, and even just the little things where it's not horrible. Like we were watching that series Yellow Jackets about it's not based on a true story, but this soccer team, girls soccer team crashes in the wilderness. They end up having a resort to cannibalism. So it's kind of based on a real life
Well, it was
story.
inspired by the Annie
Inspired.
story.
It's not at all the same, but inspired.
Right.
But that was for men. But
Mhm.
even then, they had to do tropes like the best shooter, of course, with the woman, right? The
Yeah.
girl. You always have these tropes they have to do now, and it's just utterly predictable, and that's it. So we got Simulated Xennial on. How you doing, Simulated Xennial?
I'm doing fine. How are you, Paul?
I'm doing well. It's good to have you on. Do you have any?
Yeah, I wanted to meet Sasha. How are you, Sasha?
Good. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Yeah, I had a couple of questions. Or one question is, um, whatever happened to Friends of Aquinas? He used to come on your show. I mean, wasn't he in the Gumroad?
Yeah, and what I'm doing now, guys, just to tell the audience when someone is talking and we show a video, because we don't have headphones in, we'll get feedback. So I'm just muting, us,
Right.
and so I'm kind of going back and forth. So we're going to treat this like a CB conversation. Um, yeah, well, we have a lot of people that come in and we miss because they're really good contributors, and then they just kind of go away. But then we get new people like yourself. We had a great session on Gumroad Sunday.
Yeah, we have a lot of people though that come and go, and people always ask us. It's like I have no idea what.
Yeah, I
happens to
mean,
these
people just do their own things, and but yeah, he was good. I actually did an interview with him. He was a real traditional Catholic from Britain, I believe.
Mhm.
And so, but no, I don't know where I don't know where he went. And I always value people's privacy. So people want to come and a lot of people, they don't ever really go away. They just may not go get on the show. Like Scott James, who I've met a couple times, he's usually in the round table, but he
Right.
doesn't join it, but he always watches it. So people do different things. So that's fine. We
Mhm.
respect that.
Oh, and I have a list of TV shows and movies if you guys have seen them. Like, have
Okay.
you guys seen The Big Bang Theory?
No.
Yeah, I have. I found that somewhat enjoyable.
That's a really good show. And I know they did a spin-off of The Big Bang called Young Sheldon.
I
Really
never
good.
saw that. Was that a good show?
Oh, it's a very good show. And then, have you guys seen the show series? It was in the early 2000s, Gilmore Girls.
No.
I did. My daughter, when she was young, I think my daughter was a teenager, and she loved that show. So I did see some of those episodes. It was pretty clever.
Yeah, I used to watch that when I was younger as well. Um, and Monk,
Mm-mm.
Punk? No,
Monk,
Monk.
Monk.
Oh, Monk.
No.
Oh, I've
Brandon
heard
don't like
about that.
that.
I never
I
watched
never
that, but you
watched
said
it.
Brandon liked it. So
Yeah.
is that a good show?
Very good show. It's about a kind of an OCD genius detective. It's really comical. Yeah, it's something for you guys to watch because there's certain shows that people don't usually recognize or pay attention to. So and
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. So I remember that maybe I didn't see Monk, but years ago, A lot of people used to watch a show called MacGyver, where a guy always figures out things.
Yeah,
and-
Brandon liked that too.
Yeah.
I never watched that either.
Oh, that was a very long time ago. So, and have you heard of the movie The 13th Floor?
Heard of it. I don't think I've
It's a
seen it.
really good movie. It's about being in a simulation within a simulation, and it's a really interesting movie. Similar to The Matrix, but more philosophical, more kind of really interesting.
Oh, thanks. We'll have to take a look at that. So I appreciate the suggestion.
No problem. Okay, and how are you, Paul?
We're good. We're both getting over colds. Last week we both had a cold, and maybe it's COVID. Who knows? But we've
Isn't that a cold?
we're still a little bit congested. Yeah, it's a cold. I'm a little congested. Are you still congested?
Not really. I didn't have it that bad because I got sick at the end
Yeah.
of July. And so I think I had enough of built up to kind of dodge your cold.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't as bad. Just had some post-nasal drip, but I'm okay.
Okay, then I don't know other movies I could think of. I don't want to occupy your time too much, but I never heard The Matrix, the movie, so that's very popular. And so yeah, that's all I probably have to say.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in. I do appreciate it.
I hope I'm not coming off boring. So here.
No, you're doing fine, and you got to watch this on my mute because you missed it. You were muted when you said, "Oh no."
Oh.
Because
Oh, no.
what I'm having to do, what we have to do, Sasha, we got to get both of our headphones in so we can both be
Right.
on headphones. Because right now we're not in headphones, so when anyone calls in and talks, unless I put the mute when they're talking, they get feedback.
Right.
The audience will.
You need to get a splicer then. so
I
we can
do.
both have
We'll get
headphones.
one. That's something next time I'm in town, I'll do that. So next week we'll do that. So, but until then, we'll just mute as what I do whenever the caller talks. Now, when I'm on my own, I just put my headphones in, so it's no big deal.
Yeah.
So sorry, guys, if there's some technical issues with this, but this is why. So anything else? Yeah, no, you aren't boring at all. I'm happy you called in, and anyone on Gumroad can call in. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you two go. I will continue to watch the show. If I have any questions, I'll call in, or if I want to add to the conversation.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, Paul. Sasha.
Bye.
Oh, we got K-Max here, and welcome K-Max. And K-Max, just in case you heard, we don't have our headphones in, so whenever you talk, I gotta put us on mute. The audience will hear you, and I'll hear you, but it's just so we don't get feedback. So go ahead, K-Max.
Sure. I'll just try to make it clear when I'm finished, so you could start. Maybe I'll say pass at the end. Simulated, it just inspired me because I hadn't called in a while. And Night Owls is a fun show to call in since it's not so rigid to maybe one exact topic. I did super chat about Titanic was the last big movie I can remember, like from '97. It was pretty much an all-white cast, and it was 1912 rich people. Did you think that movie might be recast as all black people were on the ship in 1912 America, rich people? Pass.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for the question, K-Max. And we got a couple super chats too. We got to go for one super chat. I didn't see this from K-Max, but thank you, K-Max, for that. Would they recast it? I don't know. They're starting to Sasha historical things,
They
try to put
would.
blacks
Well,
in.
they already
So
said they have to do that.
they do to get the Academy Award.
Right.
So they would probably put some blacks in there, even though there were no blacks on, really.
Right.
So yeah, I think they would. And
Yeah, they would.
well, someone said there was a quote I did on one of my shows that, well, yeah, we're kind of lying about history, but we're doing what it should have been.
Wasn't that the Doctor Who guy?
Yeah, or something like that. So yeah, I think they probably would. Okay. Any
Second question was just going to be, I really wanted this topic. It's related to culture, it's not much to movies. I was thinking about this today though. The obesity thing, which one show, it was either I think it was 2 weeks ago because you were off last week. It was talked about obesity a lot. And I thought it was one issue that libertarianism, again, can't address because it assumes that if you give people freedom, they'll make the right choice in their own interests. So they would just choose to eat the right foods if you give people the freedom. I said, I think even if you made healthy foods the same cost as McDonald's, a lot of these people would still eat McDonald's. Do you think if it got so bad that the obesity rate was 90% of the public, the government would have to step in and either tax soda like they do cigarettes or tax on healthy food? Or what would be your solution as the obesity czar of America? Because I see it as more of an increasing problem.
Yeah, that's a great question, KMax. And I'm trying to figure out we have to look back because obesity when I was young, if you look at old pictures, was not really a major thing. I mean, there were
No.
some fat people, but it wasn't as common. And I've often thought about, well, what was different? And there was a few things that were different. I'm just thinking about my life. People, I don't think, at least we didn't eat out at restaurants as frequently as people do today. And I think it was more rare. We just ate out at special occasions. Was that the way with you, Sasha?
And my friend Mark always said when he was growing up, the portion sizes were a lot smaller.
That was the other
Like he
thing I was
said,
going
like
to bring
a
up.
Coke
Yeah.
would be like the size of this coffee cup would be what you get with your meal. And he said the hamburgers were always really small. And then he said they started like biggie sizing everything. And he thinks that's part of the problem.
Well, and the reason they did this at restaurants because food was cheap, the materials, the labor,
Right.
their cost. So they would compete on giving you a lot of food. And Sasha knows us. Whenever we go out to eat to, let's say, Village Inn, and I get a breakfast meal, that's really enough for like 2 meals.
Well, yesterday we went out and to this mom and pop place even.
I
and
tweeted
I
it.
had a lot of leftovers.
I did,
Like,
yeah.
I couldn't
had
even eat
some
all
too.
that stuff.
And so it depends how hungry I am, but I usually split the meal in two. Then I take it in the to-go box, and then I have a meal. So let's say if we eat at like around lunch, and then for dinner I'll just have what's remaining. And whereas other people, they would have like a big breakfast, then go out to lunch and eat the whole thing, then go out to dinner. And part of it is just because I'm kind of cheap and I don't want to spend a lot of money on the
Yeah.
food. So it's kind of expensive to go out and have a big breakfast, big lunch, and big dinner. So I try to just have like one major meal a day, and then my other meals are kind of small snack.
Yeah.
And I try to do that. So but to get into your question, and then also I think a big change was how the instead of having cane sugar, they use a high fructose sugar.
I think so too.
And I would like to see the government ban that. I think they've done studies that adds to obesity too. And then also smoking has been discouraged. And I was talking to my family doctor just a few months ago because I had my physical, and he agreed with me that the attack on smoking is not good for you, but smokers tend not to get as obese because instead of going out and eating, let's say chips or soda, they would just have a cigarette.
Well, it's kind of an appetite suppressant.
Yeah.
Too, I think.
I never really smoked enough to know that, but that could be a thing too. But smokers usually aren't as heavy, so it's kind of strange. I'm not advocating smoking, but it's sort of a trade-off because a lot of smokers, and if they quit smoking, they get fat, and then they're at risk for diabetes and heart disease. So obviously, it's best to do both, but that could be a issue too because back in the day. And like say the 60s and 70s, most adults, would you say Sasha smoked? I would say most did.
Most everybody I knew smoked.
It was
when I
very
a
common
kid.
for people to smoke. There's no stigma.
I would say
to
it was more uncommon if you didn't smoke back
Yeah,
then.
it really kind of was. It's more like you're a teetotaler or you're maybe super religious or something. It was considered odd if you didn't smoke. So I think that was a part of it too. How I would deal with it. I would ban high fructose sugar. I think that that was just put in by the farm lobby because it's very powerful. And I think if you fix society, people will try to have more pride in themselves. It seems like our society's crumbling. And Sasha and I were just talking. We went to Sam's Club, and it looks like I always joke to her a lot of poor breeding. We see people like, what the hell is that person? It's just really, and then other people, they're all obese and they all look sloppy. It's just no sense of pride really anymore. And I think as the country crumbles, you see it in the people too.
Mhm.
So I think if you had pride in your country, people would take more pride in themselves. So I think it's more of a symptom, how people present themselves and the problem than the reason. So it's more of a sign of something deeper, I think, that's gone wrong in our culture.
Yeah, I think Bloomberg's attempt was he was going to tax soda and you would have a limit. So instead of a big gulp 64 ounce, maybe you would limit some of the 20 ounce. And then instead of free refills, which McDonald's might be phasing out, but if you could get unlimited free refills, you could get 100 ounces. But say every time you got a 10 or 15 ounce and finish, you had to pay for the next drink. And it's a little bit like the taxing cigarettes. Cigarettes used to be under $4 a pack. Now they're close to $10, $11 a pack. I thought maybe if you made it more costly, do you think that would be a solution?
Yeah, maybe it's my remnant of my libertarianism. I don't really want the government to tell me how much Coke I can drink. I don't know about
Right.
you. And so I think there's other ways to go about it because, again, back in the day, the government really didn't limit that, but people still didn't pig themselves
Well,
out.
that's the thing that never made sense though. With they were trying to ban like what 32-ounce drinks or whatever it was in New York. You can just get refills.
Well, he's talking about they ban refills too. They're trying to do so.
Oh, well, then you just buy another drink. I mean,
yeah.
really, what's just if you want more, you're going to get more.
Yeah,
You know?
I think that's the case. So I don't know.
Well, it's if it's super costly. I mean, not that it's just a dollar, but maybe if it was, I don't know, like triple the price or something. But I think I just meant more of as an emergency situation where the government have to interact. Where a guy like Sticks, a principal libertarian, might say, like with porn, oh, just trust people to make the right decision. Trust people to make the right decision. If that's always the way to go, I guess.
Yeah, I guess in this area though, I would still keep it free. What's your take on that, Sasha?
What?
Should we regulate how much Coke people drink?
No.
Yeah. So,
well, final thing is, I heard the comparison to Europe since we went to Hungary. Europe just doesn't have the crap food. Like we were comparing breakfast, and my friends have been to Europe, and they go, here you might get a breakfast that's triple pancakes, bacon, sausage, eggs, all in one breakfast. And in Europe, the shop would maybe have pastry, and you'd have a small pastry and a coffee. Is that true? Since I haven't been to Europe, but you have, Rams. Is that different?
That's somewhat true. I mean, it's changing now as they get more, the United States gets more in there. And I think some of it's just the economy. If you don't have if you're not as wealthy, you can't afford as much stuff. And I think that limits, how much you can eat. And that was another issue when people were poor, you just couldn't, get as much food. So I think that could have fit in there. Oh, buttons on your couch. Yeah.
But you're quick. You too. I think you're right. You said people don't care how they appear. A lot of times in big cities, nobody knows anybody else, so they kind of dress in shorts or real casual wear. Even women do, and it's a real difference of your appearance. Just doesn't matter at all. And that was probably a huge societal shift.
Yeah, it is different because years ago, even though people wouldn't know each other in big cities, because in Chicago, New York, people wouldn't know each other, but they still dress nice. So I think as a general, we're degrading ourselves in all areas, and how you dress is symbolic of that. And that's why that dress code in the Senate was important because it shows certain respect. That's why I always try to dress for my show because it shows some respect. When I used to work in the office years ago, you were expected to wear a suit and tie. And it's like, well, why do that? You could program without it because it showed a certain standard. And I think how you dress is important. And as this country, people are losing, they don't care about the country or anything anymore. People are just treating it real shabbily. And I think it's sort of a symptom, not the cause, but the symptom of what we're facing.
Yeah, and Chrissy Mayer on her show Simcast, she was just showing they have these Miss World contests, and now it's usually like an obese African winning Miss Norway, Mrs. Portugal. Like I don't know if you look it up easy, but Miss World competitions, the models now look disgusting. So yeah,
that's pretty much true. But did you see, Sasha, that Miss Zimbabwe was a white woman, and it's creating a lot of that used to be Rhodesia, real pretty blonde white woman, and it's got.
They were freaking out. They said, "This is awful." You look at the reverse. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's got a lot of the blacks upset because it should be a black.
Yeah, but they have a lot of European countries that have blacks that.
Well, that I know, but that's okay.
So,
It's the other way. It's not
well,
okay.
you can't have it both ways.
Well, they try to.
All right. Final point was just I do have a super chat about the Titanic movie. So yeah, you can read that anytime, and I'll watch the show.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thanks to K-Max. And I hope that the sound wasn't too off, guys. Again, we're gonna fix it because Sasha and I need to do. We need to do this anyway, Sasha, because we can listen stuff online together, and we both need to get headphones. So we'll
Right.
get a splitter on that.
Why have headphones? You just need to get a splitter.
Well, I know that's what I'm talking about. So, anyways, because otherwise you just hear the feedback,
Right.
and so I'm trying to mute it when they talk. So, but whatever. But good points. And let me see here. We got some super chats. Yeah, we got here a
$10. So get the bell.
oh yeah, this was from Robert. Robert, this is a this wasn't this is actually not a super chat, it was a power chat, but I still love it. And so we're going to copy this in, and we also got a super chat. And the question here was, and we talked a little bit about this, one of the last all white or almost all white casts from a big movie was Titanic in 1997. If they remade Titanic, would be all black people on the boat. I don't think it'd be all black, but they would have more blacks.
They have a lot more, probably half, I bet.
In 1912, all black people on a rich person's boat. Titanic was a decent film. No, they would just add some, I think, is what they would do, to be fair.
Right.
That's what they would do.
Well, they'd have to replace some of them, would have to be black. Probably like Molly Brown or some of them. It doesn't matter if they weren't black before, they'll change it. Just like you said with the Doctor Who guy.
Right.
They don't give a shit.
Right. They would probably do it as they would have, what was it, Kate Winslet? They still have her, but they put a black eye in that other character, the Leonardo. Yeah. They'd have him some like African prince from Wales or something. Yeah, so I think they probably would. And they could get away with that because they say they were fictional characters.
Right.
So yeah, I think they would have. And then they'd have the race mixing that they like to push. So I think they would do this. We got another super chat for $10. And I skipped over it. Here it is. Biff, thank you. Most of the good movies were made before we were born. Try checking out the French and Italian black and white films from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. They are much better.
I've seen some. You know what's good is the French Beauty and the Beast movie from the 40s. Oh, we forgot to give the guy cowbell.
All right, cowbell. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I hope there's creativity that comes back, because I think people are still creative. It's just because of this happened under communism. Everything got so political they couldn't put out good productions.
Well, there's like a few good things here and there, but a lot of times they're still kind of woke,
Right.
or they'll have to throw even like Yellow Jackets. Like it was good, like the first season, but then they had that crap too. But then like the second season, kind of like you said, it fell apart. Like
well,
the
even
writing got bad.
even in the Titanic, they had some lies, subversive elements that wasn't true. For example, they somehow show that rich people were trying to kill the third class people. And I've been to the Titanic Museum, studied that a little bit. There's none of that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the richest guy, John Astor, he's the richest man in the world. He'd be like Elon Musk. Because to take a first class trip from Britain to America on the Titanic in equivalent dollars would be like $100,000 today.
Mm-hmm.
That's how expensive the ticket was.
Yeah.
And this guy was rich, John Astor, and he went down with the ship because they had a sense of honor.
Yeah.
And a lot of the third class people died because they weren't able to get up in time because they're down below, because it hit at night.
Right.
A lot of them were sleeping.
Right.
But there wasn't a plot to try to keep. In fact, you were more likely to live statistically if you had a third class woman passenger than if you're a first class man.
Right, because they let them go because
they did women and children first.
Right.
So, but even then, they kind of pushed that kind of lie about it. And And I guess she even back then they're doing this strong empowered women bullshit.
Yeah,
a
I
little bit.
watched it a couple years
Yeah.
ago. We had a bunch of snow and I was off
Mhm.
work. I don't know if you remember. I don't think you were with me. You were like here or something, and I was in
Mhm.
Fayetteville and I watched it. And I don't know. I kind of like the movie better without the love story. Somebody in the chat to that, because I don't know, she was kind of annoying. I
Right.
normally like Kate Winslet, but you watch it now and she was just kind of a spoiled brat.
Right.
And the villain guy, it's like he didn't start off all that bad. It's like she was screwing around with Leonardo DiCaprio, which I'm sorry, like Billy Zane was way hotter and he was rich. Like I never really got that. Like it seems like they should have cast like some ugly dude in that part to make it more realistic. Because I remember when it came out, even me and Moscow were like, yeah, because I was in high school when it came out. We both thought Billy Zane was hotter than Leonardo DiCaprio. He looked like a kid to me. Like I don't know. She just came off like you said as kind of obnoxious in it.
Right.
If you watch it now, like you said, it is like she's kind of unlikable, and there's not room for him on that piece of metal at the end. You
Yeah.
know, like he wasn't very big. He could have got on there with her. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, so there's been these. It's the whole political correctness existed for years, but it really accelerated since 2012. It was gradual beforehand. I would say, when it really started, if you watch old movies and TV, I would say the person that really started it, and I don't not really start, there was some even before him, but really mainstreamed it was Norman Lear,
Mhm.
All in the Family, MASH, One Day at a Time, because they really pushed like the idea of divorce, and they did a whole black thing, and
Right.
the women's lib they called it back then, and they really pushed that beforehand. If you looked at that in the 60s, if you looked at Father Knows Best, and even the Brady Bunch, which we watched the other night, you didn't see that as much.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I think it changed then. It
One
started
thing
changing.
though, like at least Norman Lear, like the women, a lot of them were housewives though. Like that now, you can't even have like a woman just stay home with
Well,
the kids,
that
like
was
Brady Bunch.
that was the
Because
start, though.
yeah, because like even like Edith stayed at home, and Maud, I think she didn't work. I think she did later, maybe I don't know, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it did. It was worse with that, but
Yeah, that's when they really first started to push their political message within TV shows. Because if you watch like a lot of old TV shows like Leave It to Beaver, they're kind of corny, and sometimes they push a message, but the message is always like you need to obey your parents, or you need to be always tell the truth.
right.
So there would be maybe a morality tell to the story, where when you got in the 70s, they started to do that men keep women down, whites are mean to blacks. That was their morality
Well, now
tale.
it's kind of like with children too. We all have to worship children. They never get disciplined. Like you watch these shows, and it's like, oh, you can't ever get on to them or punish them.
Well, that
Like,
was
I mean, that's another thing. They run wild.
Yeah,
They're snot nose.
that-
Like little shits.
That started years ago, though, and even in the 70s and 80s, where the trope of the little kids, they know more than their
Yeah.
parents, and they're just so smart. And that's an old.
They don't have
trope
any
they did.
respect for their parents.
No,
Like,
no. The parents are dumb and they know everything.
Yeah.
And that was
They
definitely
do that
a
with
trope.
fathers now too. Like you watch the Brady Bunch, and the dad was wise. Or even Family Ties, like you watch the dad always had good advice, and now they try to make the dad out to be like an idiot.
Or like Andy Griffith. Is that Griffith or Griffin? I always say that. Andy
I
Griffith.
think it's Griffith.
Yeah, Andy Griffith. He was like a single father, but he would.
Or is it Griffin? Andy Griffith. I think it's Griffith.
I always get that mixed up.
My
I know
dad
I
liked
shouldn't.
Andy Griffith. That was one of his shows that he enjoyed.
I know. So let's just see. I just have to look this up. Andy Griffith.
It is
Griffith. We are Griffith. But he was always positive with his son, and he was
Right.
like a good. If you think about it, you wouldn't have a character. Hollywood would not have a white male that's strong. He was brave, but a good man. Took care of his child. They wouldn't have that role unless he was a homosexual, maybe.
Right.
And but then they started to do very negative portrayals of fathers,
Mm-hmm.
and now you can't get a white. You just don't see them.
No.
And unless again you're homosexual, and that's by design. They're subverting.
Well, and usually the woman runs the house.
Yes.
And all these things. The man doesn't have a say. He's just kind of like the sidekick. Really?
I'm gonna throw something out here controversial. I'll get Sasha's opinion. I haven't really talked to her about it, but in a lot of and I'm not going to say names or anything like that, but in a lot of the households I've seen, in many cases, a woman does run the house.
Yeah, that's true. I grew up in a house
Pro-
where the
well,
woman ran the house.
Probably the healthy relationship I saw that I don't know how you define it is my grandfather, who I'm named after, Paul Ramsey, and his wife Sylvia. I really love them a lot. But they had a healthy relationship. He was like old school. He kind of ran the house, but at the same time, it was more like this. She ran the house, but he would have the final say and
Mhm.
she would respect it. But for 90% of the stuff, he didn't give a shit and let her do what she
Right.
wanted. Like how she wanted to decorate the house, he didn't give a shit. He didn't get, you know what I mean?
Right. Most men don't
Yeah,
care, though they don't. Like
right.
my dad never cared if I hung stuff up or whatever. Usually women like to do that.
Yeah.
So unless you're just hanging something hideous up on the wall, they're usually not going to care.
Yeah, there was, I won't get into too much, but he would like once tell my grandmother because someone was upsetting her not to talk, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So he would step in, but yeah, I've seen a lot of cases where really I would say the majority of cases women kind of run the show.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And it's not healthy, but you see that. But it's weird because in Hollywood, anytime they would show a man running the show, it has to be abusive.
Right.
They couldn't show it in a positive fashion
Right.
anymore. But a woman running the show, that's considered normal. And so that's part of the issue. So yeah, I think the subversion goes way back, but it really
It's
went,
worse now, though.
oh, got on steroids like 2012. And it used to, you could kind of overlook some of it, but they just make every once in a while a little. Well, you were just watching something, and I heard they made a barb about Christopher Columbus killing Indians or something.
Mhm.
So you get all this anti-white propaganda.
Yeah, that Christopher Columbus stuff's been around for a long time. Well, remember they even talked about that in The Sopranos.
Yeah.
But they were like pro Christopher Columbus. Remember they were
Yeah.
going to get rid of the holiday or something, and
Yeah.
the Italians were for keeping the holiday. I don't know if you remember that one.
Yeah,
That's
I
one of the
remember
ones I
that.
actually remember.
Yeah, I do remember that. So that was a good thing there too. So yeah, that was pretty good here. And let's see here. Oh, one of the things I wanted to do tonight, and we still have time here, is just go over some of the scariest.
Did you want to show these?
I did.
before?
We got something, and his
Before
name,
you forget.
and he was from Texas and West, right?
And you got something last week too.
Yes, and here's a T-shirt. Let me just bring this up. So thank you for sending this. And if you guys want to write us, you can write us at P.O. Box 8093. Is it?
Yes.
Yes, Fayetteville,
Arkansas 72703.
Sasha's got memorized.
As you should too.
I should, but I don't know. I thought this was AC/DC, but it's something else.
Well, so if you look at the tag, I think that's what it's supposed to be.
Is it? Okay.
Like what it says on the tag.
And then another T-shirt. I don't know what this is either. Looks like a woman dancing or something. So thank you for this. Something RD.
Or RO.
RO.
or RD. Oh, it's RD, you're right.
But thank you for the T-shirts. Oh, and he gave a couple $25 Starbucks. This is really good because when I first met Sasha, we would go to Starbucks all the time. We haven't been in a while because I like to read a book and coffee. I might read my Goebbels book too. With that,
Yeah.
I got to finish my book on the book club we're doing on Gumroad, The Shepherd in the Hills, and so. But that's a short book. That's an easy book. I'm looking forward to that. And we met Stratus. He visited us. He's always puts a lot of time in on the book club. So I look forward to hear his.
When are you
takes.
going to do the book club? Do you know? Yeah.
In a couple of weeks. I just need to get caught up on the book myself. I'm always tardy on it. It seems. I know. So. That's it. So let's do this here. All right, we're gonna go over the scariest movies and see what you guys say. I'm gonna show clips. So I'll just delete the YouTube portion.
You're gonna have to because they're cracking down. It seems like everybody I hear about's getting strikes or warnings or whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for showing things.
Well, why don't we just hang on here? What we could just shut this down on YouTube and just do it on Rumble. You want to do that?
Do that then.
So, guys, we're just going to go over to Rumble. Just head on over to Rumble, and let me just send you guys a link here. See, make sure it's working okay. I guess it's working okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, there it is. But I'm going to copy the link anyway. So you guys on YouTube, just head over to Rumble because we want to show some clips, and YouTube's are being dicks about everything. So let's see here. And yeah, so, and even though we're on Rumble, you can still call into the show. That's not specific to YouTube. So we'll see you guys.